Yeah, I was wrongzo. 100% wrong about the Switch Mini, or aka the Switch Lite. So wrong. A bunch of wrong. Okay, the one thing, one of the things I was wrong about, I didn't think it was gonna happen. I listened to Nintendo when they said that there was no hardware that was gonna come out this year or whatever. I did, in fairness, I did eventually kind of turn around on that one. When, everyone was telling me how Nintendo apparently totally lied about the 3DS as well. Like, they said they wouldn't announce new hardware, and then they totally did. So once I heard that, and then just like, I don't normally like to listen to rumors, but it does reach a point sometimes where if something is rumored so many times from so many different sources, I kind of start to have to, because that's usually when it's true. And in this case, like I know I've said before, I've gone on record saying I didn't think Nintendo was going to do it. Since then, though, I've kind of come around on that. I've kind of been like, yeah, like I started to kind of expect like a random announcement like this. Wrong about everything else though. That's the thing. But let's go through what this thing is first, and then I'll kind of comment on each thing. So the Switch Lite, it's a little old Switch, and it's just like everyone was saying. The Joy-Cons don't detach. It's just it doesn't dock to the TV. It's exactly what everyone has been speculating on, basically since the Switch has existed, which is pretty surprising. Didn't think that it would be exactly what everyone, but that, it's the whole, if I'm sure Nintendo won't do what everyone expects, what happens, yada yada yada, left field, all that stuff. Anyway, so it's a little old Switch. Apparently it's about, I'd like to have one in my hands to like really get a feel for it, but you can see the pictures and stuff. Everyone says it's about the width of a regular Switch without one of the Joy-Cons, and then of course it's a little less tall too. So a good deal smaller. It sounds like a nightmare for someone like me with very large hands. The Switch itself is already a little bit cramped to play, but still doable. This would be pretty rough for me. It's definitely, and it's funny seeing in the commercial, it still is advertising it to adults more than anything, and I think that's really surprising. I mean, what's everyone thinking? They're thinking, oh, Switch Mini, it's cheaper, it's handheld. Kids, it's smaller, it's for kids, it's for kids with small hands and all that stuff. No, like, they're advertising it to people on the go. And I think that's another pretty smart thing, because, the kiddie advertising, even if this is something that will appeal to kids, as much as they can say, no, this appeals to anybody, the more they do that, the better. And I think that's a pretty smart angle, that it's not just like, hey, look, kids, here's one for you. It's like, no, people on the go, people going to the space, people going camping. It's good for all y'all. I don't know, pretty smart. It's another big marketing win, in my opinion. And it's funny, I'm sitting here recording this, and I've got my 3DS on the shelf here, and I picked it up, and I start messing with it. I'm like, no, it's probably still bigger than the 3DS. So actually, I did manage to play the 3DS, so it wouldn't be too bad. I would get used to it. It did cramp my fingers a lot, though. I didn't really like it on the 3DS, so I still do prefer larger model. Always will. I really got the big hands. They're pretty big. I know you can't tell in the videos, but they're pretty big. Anyway, so the screen. The original Switch has a 6.2-inch screen, and the Switch Lite has a 5.5-inch screen, and that does make a lot of sense. That's a nice little size reduction. I do have to wonder about visibility, though, because there are some games, especially like with third-party games, where they don't do a lot to, I don't know, optimize the handheld experience. They just kind of like, well, we made this for TVs, and then here it is in handheld mode. So certain text and icons and stuff can be really small. So I do have to wonder, like, I already have a little bit of a hard time with the size of some stuff on games now. So if it were even smaller than that, I don't know, man. I love playing handheld, but sometimes I gotta pop it on the TV just because my eyes get kind of tired from squinting at this little tiny display. Anyway, moving on. No HD rumble or IR sensor in the Joy-Cons. It said IR motion sensor or something. I think that they'll probably still have like a gyro and stuff in them so that you can aim with that. It didn't say specifically. The IR sensor makes sense, obviously. Like, if you can't take off the Joy-Con, there's no point. And all the things that you would do with that, it doesn't really matter. Then no HD rumble, that's a little bit of a bummer. I feel like there are applications to HD rumble beyond, like in 1-2 Switch, where you're taking it off and you're, like, oh, it feels like there's balls rolling around in it or something. I feel like it's nice just on its own, That could just be a cost-saving measure, though. That's probably what it was, but it's slightly disappointing. I don't know if that means it has no rumble at all. It probably does. And I don't know, I like rumble. I would take just, you know, regular rumble instead of HD if that were possible. I'm not really sure, though. Big one. It's the price. It's $200. It's, you know, I don't think it's any cheaper to do. I mean, I guess without the HD rumble or the IR sensor, that's got to be at least, and a smaller display. Slightly cost-saving, I would say that probably the biggest one, though, you know, the dock. They don't include the dock, no HDMI cable. So it's $200, and that's a good price. That is a really, really good price. $300, that's a fairly hefty barrier to entry. I mean, like, obviously it's still cheaper than other consoles. Well, not really, actually. It's not really. You can get a PS4 for like $250 now. So, I don't know. 300 is actually pretty expensive compared to those, at least late in the generation like this. 200, a lot more manageable. Pretty sure that's what the new 3DS XL started at. 200 makes total sense. Nintendo has talked about multiple times how they want everyone in the family, everyone in the universe to own a Switch. So a nice, you know, $200, simple, less breakable. I mean, you know, let's admit, the Joy-Cons, they add more to, like, break, you know. It's the same reason they lost the hinge on the 2DS, because it's just another movable part that can break eventually. So this is going to be a much, I don't know, I think it's going to be a pretty big deal. I'll talk about that more in a bit. Being smaller, it is roughly 1/3 lighter, so that's a lot lighter. I mean, the Switch already isn't, like, super heavy or anything, but, yeah, one thing, you know, 33% lighter, approximately. That's pretty good. Battery life. Here's sort of a disappointing one. This thing that they put out claims that the original Switch's battery life ranges from 2.5 to 6.5 hours. I don't know what they're planning to get 6.5. They're probably just sitting on the home menu. I never get, I don't know. I've had other people say they can get longer battery life. Maybe it's just my Switch. Maybe my battery's messed up. I never get more than 2. Like, on almost anything. Maybe 3 if I'm playing something really, really simplistic with really basic graphics. I don't know, to me, it's 2 hours. That's what I plan on. If I want to play my Switch outside of the dock, it's 2 hours. But this thing's battery life, it goes from 2.5 to 6.5, according to Nintendo, to 3 to 7. So a really, really, really slight increase in battery life. So slight that I would say it's pretty much negligible. And it's understandable but disappointing. On the understandable end, this thing is smaller. How much battery they have is limited to how big of a battery they can fit inside of it. They shrunk this thing down, all the components down, so obviously they're not going to be able to put a big beefy battery into it. We're lucky they got a bigger one at all. But then on the other hand, like, the Switch, I can play it for a couple hours and then go pop it in the TV and keep playing. This thing, it's gonna feel a little more painful when people are running out of battery, when it's only gonna be a few hours. I mean, obviously they can go, you know, plug it into the wall, just like with anything, but I don't know, the fact that it is focused so heavily on being handheld, I don't know, it makes that battery life a little bit tougher to swallow. I don't know, it is nice that it's slightly better. Whatever, there's a little thing there. Colors. It comes in yellow, gray, turquoise, and apparently there's a Pokemon one coming later to coincide with the launch of Pokemon Sword and Shield. I like the colors. I like them. They're kind of nice. I don't like really big, shocking primary colors. You know, I didn't get the blue and the red Joy-Cons originally. I just got the gray. The yellow, it looks okay. I'm not a big fan of yellow in general, but like the gray and the turquoise, I like a lot. I don't usually like bluey ones on the blue side of things, but I don't know, the turquoise looks pretty good. I like the gray. I'd probably go with the gray. It's a nice gray color. It's pretty good. So more about how I was wrong. Super duper wrong. I mean, like everyone said at this point, everyone's thought it. It is weird that it's a Switch that doesn't switch. It's just weird. The 3DS to the 2DS sort of made sense. The 3D effect was never really a big deal. It did not change the way games played for the most part. Most people didn't really care about it. So when they did away with it and it's like, oh, 3DS to 2DS, it's a 2DS, makes a little bit of sense. This is called a Switch and it does not switch. The ability to switch was one of the main selling points of the Switch. This just doesn't have it, and that's weird, and that's why I didn't think they would do it. I really, really didn't. And I don't know. At the end of the day, I guess I mean, they knew it was weird. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they were like, yeah, it's weird. It's a Switch that doesn't switch, and everyone's gonna think that's weird. But I suppose just the draw of this kind of system was worth it to them. It was like, and it makes perfect sense. This thing is gonna sell like crazy. So I guess they were just like, it's weird, but it's gonna sell, so it doesn't really matter. Let's do what's weird. We're Nintendo. We do what's weird all the time. Nothing is off the table. King's of left field. It wasn't just the lack of switching that made me doubt this thing's existence, though. It was the fact that it will not work with some games. And I still, I don't get that. It's so weird. Like, there's no way they can communicate to everybody that it's not going to work with some games. Technically, it does. Like, say, you know, the main ones that I can think of are 1-2-Switch, Mario Party, and Labo. Technically, these things do work with them. You just have to buy an extra set of Joy-Cons. And if you do that, you don't have a Switch that you can charge them on, so then you have to buy, like, the charging dock or something, which is a huge pain. It's not, like, no one's gonna do that. No one's gonna spend $130 or whatever just so they can play Mario Party on top of everything else. So it's like, it is going to happen. This is an inevitability. There are going to be kids, probably a lot of them. They're gonna go to the store. They're gonna say, Mommy, I want a Switch Lite and I want Mario Party. It's going to happen. And they're gonna take them home, crack it all open, and realize they can't play it. They just can't. And again, it's just probably one of those things that Nintendo was like, yeah, it's gonna be awkward, but it's just still worth it to have this kind of product. It's just, I don't know. That's one of the reasons I didn't think they would. Like, they're pushing Labo. Well, I mean, you know, they're not pushing it that hard, but, you know, like, they really liked Labo. They pushed it out there. They're advertising this thing as a great thing for kids. Oh, cool. The Switch is finally affordable. Yeah, I'm gonna pick up a $200 Switch and then get a Labo kit, and I'm gonna do it with my kid. Take it home. It doesn't work. And it's just like, are they gonna, like, train the employees at Best Buy and Walmart to, like, tell people, like, oh, you gotta make sure you don't get these games with this. If you do, you gotta get extra stuff. Like, I just don't see that happening, and I don't see them putting giant warning labels on everything. Like, reprinting all the old games with big things doesn't really work that well with Switch Lite. I don't really know. It's weird, but I guess it was worth it. One thing that I'm a little bit surprised is that it doesn't shut. Like, it's smaller now, so it's, like, way more likely to fit in your pocket. So I'm a little surprised that Nintendo didn't put, like, a case on it, some sort of, like, swing over top. Or, like, they love to sell things with accessories. I'm surprised they're not, like, with the actual full reveal of the system. Also, don't forget to buy the official Switch Lite case, which is just a nice little lightweight case. Because, like, I don't know, like, I still wouldn't want to put that thing in my pocket because the screen isn't protected and the control sticks are just out, so they get all wonked around. And yes, I have pockets sometimes when I want to, just so you know. I'm actually a marsupial. I have a pocket in the I'm not a marsupial. Let's move on from that little thread. No, it's just surprising that they didn't, like, I mean, there will be lightweight cases. I'm sure even just, like, some nice little slip you can throw it into just to make it go into your pocket easier or whatever. Just surprising they didn't do it themselves. Seems like a really good opportunity to be like, hey, it fits in the pocket. It's not just small, it's not just handheld. You can actually put it in your pocket this time, which is something you could do with, like, the original 3DS and the Game Boy and all that stuff. Yeah. Despite its weirdness, despite how wrong I was, how so very wrong I was, it'll be a success. It really will. At that price, people are going to be way more likely to buy one for each kid or just buy one for their kid in general. You know what I mean? Even if you only got one kid, it's still like a $300 system. That's a hard sell. Oh, look, $200, less likely to break. I mean, $100 off. That is a really, really significant drop. And it definitely means that the base Switch model is not going to drop anytime soon. It's really not, because they're going to be like, oh, you want a cheaper Switch? Get this one. This is way cheaper. It's going to do great, though. Like, this Christmas, especially with a special Pokemon one with Sword and Shield, I know I probably say this a lot, and I say this every year, but it's pretty much true every year. The Switch is selling so great, it's going to be nuts. It's going to be super duper nuts. I'm glad they're releasing it in September so that there's time for the initial stock to go down and get replenished, because once November and Pokemon everything comes along, Christmas, It's gonna be a madhouse. It's gonna be an absolute madhouse. I always say it, like, sometimes the price just has to get pushed over that just the right threshold, and every time the price does, it's gonna get a new group of people. This is $100 off. This is gonna get people flocking to the stores. This is gonna push over so many people over that threshold. And what else can I say? It's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be weird. There's gonna be some confused kids who just want to play Mario Party and they can't. But there's also gonna be that many more kids who are playing Pokemon this Christmas with their new Switches. And it's gonna be another just big push for the Switch into the world of gaming. Just another big surge in what is already a very successful system. So for that reason, it's pretty darn exciting. Last thing, Nintendo, they just had to. They had to put out a thing that said, okay, we know that this is a dedicated handheld Switch, but it's still not replacing the 3DS. Yeah. Sure it's not. I mean, okay, to be fair, having supporting the 3DS, even if they're not supporting it with games, if it's on the shelves, it's still there. You know what I mean? Like, if the Switch isn't literally, like, they're not going to the store, they're going to the shelves, taking down the 3DSs and putting up the Switch Lites. So, technically, they're right when they say that. It's not completely replacing it, but I mean, come on. It's the lower-priced, handheld-only, cheaper thing. Like, it is, though. It is supposed to replace the 3DS. Even if it isn't at the moment, it will. This will make it happen faster. Like, this will make the 3DS, they will eventually get off those shelves. Eventually, I don't know when, but it will happen, and this will make it happen faster. So it's just a little bit funny. Everyone's like rolling their eyes like, because Nintendo just every time they gotta like, no, we're still working on the 3DS. We're still selling it. It's still good. It's still selling though, so whatever. So that's that. Thank you so much for watching, and it was so wrong. So 100% wrong. Just every count, every little thing, just got it wrong. Yeah, huh? Wow.